Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter down welcoming to yet another Cutter Top 10 sports video. And today we're looking at hockey, and today we're going to be looking at the top 10 NHL Winter Classic moments of all time. Basically, the NHL sets us up on New Year's Day, an outdoor winter game to compete with college football, major bowl games, or in this case now the college football playoff and all that. There are a couple of moments from the what they call the Heritage Classic. That's the matchup between the two Canadian teams involved. And Canadian teams have played in the Winter Classic. Both Toronto and Montreal, yes, they're on this list. So let's get going. Number 10 is the one at the Cotton Bowl. January 1st, 2020, Dallas versus Nashville. Now, the Cotton Bowl is a legendary stadium home to the annual Texas-Oklahoma football game, a bowl game of their own before they moved to Arlington. Great teams playing in the matchups and all that, but a lot of people didn't think that hockey would fit in to the Cotton Bowl Stadium. So on January 1st, 2020, before COVID ruined everything, Dallas took on Nashville. And it was fantastic to see how, Dallas could get to host a Cotton Bowl, like, I don't know, Winter Classic. I mean, Nashville, I know, has hosted one and all that. And I think Utah gets to host the next one. But anyway, Dallas and Nashville, it was funny seeing two southern U.S. teams playing on an ice hockey thing in Dallas where Texas temperatures were cold. Now, let's not forget that New Year's Day 1979, there actually was freezing temperatures in Dallas because of an ice storm with the Cotton Bowl between Notre Dame and Houston. But still, that was just amazing how Dallas would play Nashville and all that. Um, Number 9 is the Winter Classic at Gillette Stadium, Habs versus Canadiens. So it was a fantastic time and all that to play hockey. And Montreal and Boston were fighting each other in the Winter Classic. A lot of people were shocked that a Canadian team would be in the Winter Classic because, the Heritage Classic's the Canadian version. But yeah, they wanted a big rivalry at Gillette Stadium where the Patriots play. Of course, I'm a New England Patriots fan, so yay on me. But yeah, anyway, Habs took on the Bruins. It was a good game. Montreal won the game 4-1, or was it 5-1? I can't remember. But Mike Condon, remember the name, Condon, Condon the Condor, with a win for the Canadiens in Boston. It was just like, what the frick? Number 8 is Washington, Chicago 2015 last second heroics. So the game was played at Washington Nationals Ballpark, where the Nationals of the MLB play for Washington. They hosted Chicago. And it's almost like every year Chicago, every second or third year, Chicago gets to be in this thing. They're banking on Taze and getting a little too much. Was that cough? But yeah, Washington with like 17 seconds left scored a winning goal to make it 3-2 and beat Chicago. And the Capitals goal horn going off, it was just like, what the fuck was going on? And all that. So that was a legendary event going on. Let's see here. I gotta make sure I do everything right. Okay, well, here we go. Number 7 is Crosby's injury 2011 Penguins versus Capitals. So it was no secret they wanted Penguins versus Washington in the game in Pittsburgh at I think Heinz Field, or was it PNC? Can't remember, but yeah. But Pittsburgh hosting Washington when Washington's David Steckel injured Crosby and kind of gave him concussion symptoms. Crosby did play a few games later, but he got hurt again, and so much so he had to miss most of the 2011-12 season. So it was just like unreal that he would do something like that. Anyway, okay, this might be a little controversial why it's so low, but number 6 is Crosby's overtime winner 2008 Winter Classic in Buffalo. This was the first outdoor game. Well, of course, the first outdoor game, 2003, we haven't talked about yet, but the NBC wanted to have it. They didn't have any college football coverage for New Year's Day, and they figured that they would give people an alternative to the Rose Bowl. Like, that's going to happen. Anyway, Pittsburgh would take on Buffalo at Ralph Wilson's same home of the Buffalo Bills. Of course, that's now gone, and Highmark Stadium is going to take its place. But anyway, Pittsburgh and Buffalo played in a snowy scene and all that. That kind of almost ruined the game in the first place and all that. So anyway, Crosby did his job, scoring the winning goal in overtime and bringing American audiences and all that. Number 5 is the penalty shot save of Henrik Lundqvist 2012 Winter Classic. So the 2012 Winter Classic happened on January 2nd in Philadelphia at Citizens Bank Park, home of the Phillies. The only reason why it was held January 2nd, not January 1st, was because January 1st laid on a Sunday. And the rule of thumb is the NFL would have Sunday, January 1st to themselves, meaning that not even college football could play. So they would have to wait till January 2nd. And so the NHL had to wait too. But in the end, Henrik Lundqvist and the Rangers were down 2-0 to the Flyers. Pair of goals by Mike Rupp, former Flyer, and all that. Made it 3-2. And then, controversially, there was a penalty shot that should not have been a penalty shot. However, thankfully, Claude Giroux missed the net as Henrik Lundqvist made that classic stop and beat the Flyers. I know you could also say their winter stuff, their stadium series stuff against the Devils and the others at Yankee Stadium and all that, but no, that's not true at all. Number 4 is Fenway Park, 2010 Flyers Bruins. It was actually shocking that it predicted a playoff matchup, the Flyers and the Bruins. Like 2009 predicted Red Wings versus Blackhawks, and they met in the second round of the playoffs. But Bruins and Flyers would also do a second round series. But Fenway Park, the atmosphere, it is Fenway Park, still up since 1912, amazing. Flyers and Bruins would take each other. Those were one of the best matchups of jerseys around. But yeah, Flyers and Bruins, it was 1-1 until Marco freaking Sturm, the guy that the Bruins picked up from the Sharks in the Joe Thornton trade, which blew up in Boston's face, scored a key goal, beat the Flyers 2-1, and Boston was on their way and all that. And of course, do, 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 was being played. And everyone was happy as can be. However, it was just, amazing. And then the Bruins would fall to the Flyers in the second round after being up 3-0. So, what an atmosphere. Number 3 is Lake Tahoe. Lake Tahoe is a classic place and all that. It held the American Century Championship for golf that, former athletes would compete in a golfing tournament. It's a great resort town and all that. It hosted in 2021 a few NHL games and all that. Of course, the Lake Tahoe thing was kind of in the middle of the whole COVID-19 crapola. And it wasn't really a Winter Classic. It was more of a Stadium Series game, but it still counts as an outdoor game. But yeah, Lake Tahoe was scenic. Unfortunately, though, it was a little too scenic. It would definitely have been number 2 on this list if they managed to make the games work. But unfortunately, the sun shone too much, the glare and all that. One game had to be postponed 6 hours until then. And of course, no fans were there because of the whole COVID-19 thing and not because of the scenery and all that. But yeah, Lake Tahoe was still pretty cool to me. Number 2, and I'm cringing when I'm saying this, is 2014 between the Leafs and the Red Wings. Leafs and Red Wings were actually supposed to meet in the 2013 Winter Classic on New Year's Day. However, the 2012-13 season started late because of the strike and, of course, ruined the outdoor game. However, the NHL decided the next year to try it again with Leafs versus Red Wings. 105,000 fans because, Michigan Stadium is so big with the home of the University of Michigan Wolverines. That it was a great atmosphere for Leafs and Red Wings fans around. And Leafs and Red Wings are a original 6 matchup, so why fight it? So anyway, the Leafs did their own things going on. And that they won in the shootout, and I was happy as it can be. I'm a Leaf fan, so what do I know? And finally, number 1 is 2003. You don't forget your first. The first outdoor game, regular season outdoor game in history. I know 1991 that the Kings and Rangers played in the Caesars Palace parking lot, but that doesn't count because it's not a regular season game. So what happened in 2003 was that the NHL had a bright idea. They wanted to put together a outdoor game, and they had two Canadian Classic teams, Montreal and Edmonton, play each other. Of course, one massive honorable mention goes to the Leafs and Red Wings 2017 on New Year's Day, playing in what they call the Centennial Classic for the 100th anniversary of the NHL, in which the Leafs beat the Red Wings on an Austin Matthews overtime goal. But we're talking about the great Montreal Edmonton match 2003. It was big. It was like, it was your first time. It was like, what the heck was going to happen? Edmonton temperature, the air temperature was minus 20 Celsius or below 0 Fahrenheit. People were fearful this would actually blow up in the NHL's face, having the Habs take on the Oilers, especially in what they call the alumni game, in which, have players from the past like Larry Robinson, Guy Lafleur, and Steve Shutt would play out the Oilers guys of Gretzky, Messier, and even Grant Fuhr. Edmonton won the alumni game 2-0, and two grinders, Martin McSorley and Ken Linsman, were the ones who scored the goals. It was a great alumni game. Chris Nyland took part in it. Grant Fuhr made some massive saves that made everyone realize why he was in the Hall of Fame in the first place. And it was amazing and all that. Of course, it was a little controversial in Canada because when they did the alumni picture, CBC, when they did the show, this hour was 22 minutes, Sean Majender's character snuck into the team photo. It caused a controversy. Of course, you Americans wouldn't know that. But anyway, the main effect, Paulina Gretzky, Gretzky's daughter, saying, "I will remember you," and all that. And it was a great atmosphere. Montreal beat Edmonton 4-3. It was a close one. Richard Sednick was the first player to score an NHL regular season outdoor goal. And who can forget Jose Theodore of the Canadiens with the toque on his head and with the air blood out of his mask and all that. That was an iconic picture in Canada. And Montreal and Edmonton raised the roof. And that's why 5 years later that the NHL got to play more outdoor games. I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.